skies, light winds this afternoon, 73. Mostly cloudy, 55 tonight. 20% chance of showers, 74 tomorrow. Then Sunday, mostly sunny, high of 76. Staff meteorologist John Weatherby, Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
And right now it's 68 degrees. The Dow is up 66 points at 17,966. S&P up 5 at 2,077. The NASDAQ up 15 at 4784. Reporting for Money Radio, I'm Ken Morgan.
The views expressed on the following program do not necessarily reflect the views of Money Radio staff, management, or advertisers, and do not represent an offer to buy or sell any securities. Some interviews heard on this program may be sponsored by the participants. It's time for Health Futures with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth. This is Arizona's only show dedicated to providing you with expert advice on how to live a longer, healthier, and happier life. To learn more, call 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Bob Roth.
Good afternoon. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. We're a weekly show that's found right here on Money Radio, KFNN, 1510 AM, 99.3 FM, and we're coming to you live from the Scottsdale Air Park. And it's hard to believe we're already into December, and we're looking at less than 3 weeks away from Christmas. Don't know where the time has gone, and we're coming up on a year of being on the show, and we've been bringing you great content about our aging adult population, and really, as the intro said, on how to live a healthier, happier life. And the aging adult population is something that Cypress Home Care Solutions, which has celebrated their 20th year this year, has served in our Maricopa County community. And we do it every day, and we make a difference in people's lives. And really the secret to making a difference in people's lives is having great people work for you, especially when you talk about the people that are doing the hard work. See, I get to be on the radio show and talk about Cypress Home Care Solutions, and I get to write articles in newspapers and publications and get to speak publicly, but the true unsung heroes to agencies, employer-based agencies like Cypress Home Care Solutions, is our caregivers. And you've heard me talk about it before. Last month, November, was National Family Caregiving Month. It was also National Hospice Month and Alzheimer's Month. And those family caregivers are truly the unsung heroes that are making a difference in their family members' lives every day. But we also have the opportunity at Cypress Home Care Solutions to employ caregivers that do this as a profession. And they do it strictly by the heart. What they do for our aging adult population is nothing short of incredible. So this program today, I want to take the opportunity to talk about caregiving. And I have got a special guest on the show today, and it's one of our caregivers, Jeff Brown. Welcome, Jeff.
Thank you, Bob.
Jeff, you are one of our caregivers, and you help make a difference in so many of our clients' lives. And we couldn't exist, as I said in the intro, without people like you. And I can't thank you enough for the work that you do. And I wanted to bring you on to talk a little bit about caregiving and what it's meant for you and how you got drawn into this space that you're in currently. Because I know that you are a professional and you do a lot of other things, and we're going to talk about that in the next segment. So talk to us a little bit about caregiving.
Caregiving to me means really spending quality time with individuals that can use my help in their daily life. For example, I've worked with individuals who have dementia, Alzheimer's. I'm non-medical, but I have learned a lot about that area over the last 6 years in taking care of folks. And at the end of the day, when someone looks at me and says, "You've really made a difference, thank you very much," that's to me what it's all about. And if I can make a difference in somebody's life, then that's what's important.
You know, I've had the opportunity to have Dr. Ed Perrin on our show. He's a gerontologist, and he's been one of the top docs in gerontology for probably the last 10 years. And, you know, one of the things, Jeff, that he shared with me is that, you know, babies get touched over 100 times a day. And a lot of our aging adult population don't even get touched at all during the week. And we have clients that obviously are married and have spouses, but we also have clients that are alone. And sometimes the only person they see every day is a caregiver.
Right.
And that caregiver not only interacting or, you know, holding a hand or putting a hand on a shoulder or giving a hug means so much. It really is incredible what that does for an aging adult person.
I agree, Bob. I've seen that many times, and it's one of those things that is just natural in the job. If your heart says, I'm here to help, then you do what you need to do to help. And sometimes that's helping someone shower, or sometimes it's putting lotion on legs that are hurting or damaged, and certainly helping individuals walk sometimes, and caring for them from that standpoint. So it's been a tremendous. It's hard to believe it's almost been a year for me now at Cypress, and I've got about 5 years experience prior to that. So bottom line, I love what I do. I love helping people, and I appreciate the opportunity to talk to your audience about that.
Well, thank you. And I can't thank you enough for the work that you do, because you do make a difference in people's lives. And, you know, I want to reach out to our listening audience and just help them understand that the caregiving profession is one that is a very noble profession, and one that is very rewarding and very captivating, and one that you're making a difference in someone's life, but also one that is shrinking. And what do I mean by shrinking is that the number of available caregivers for our aging adult population is dwindling. And I've talked about it here on their show. I mean, by 2050, we're taking the population base of our country and we're basically flipping it on its head. We're going to have more people by 2050 that are going to be 65 and older than we are going to have 18 and younger. And AARP has given us incredible stats showing that persons that do caregiving are typically between the age of 45 and 64. And people that are receiving care, 80 plus. Right now, ratios, when you look at numbers, and these statistics come from AARP from October of 2013, say or show us that presently right now we have about 7 available caregivers for every aging adult that we have in our community. By 2030, nationally, we're going to have 4. Wow. In Arizona, we're going to have 2.6 because of the aging population. And by 2050, nationally, we will have 2.9. And here in our country, or in our state, we're going to have 1.8. So we need more caregivers, and we need more people like Jeff Brown that are making differences in people's lives. And, you know, it's incredible because I got to witness this firsthand, because I had a family member that just lost somebody, and the comments that I got back, because we were on the case for about a month, were exceptional. And you know what, in talking to the caregiver, she didn't think she did a whole lot more than she would do for anybody else. I mean, it was simple. I mean, she cared. That's what she did. She cared about the family. She cared about the person she was caring for. And it was real easy to sponge bathe them. It was real easy to feed them. It was real easy to change them when she needed to, but it's something that she did because she was passionate about it, and she didn't think twice about it. And I think that's what our caregivers do.
And Bob, I would agree with you on that. The reason I got into this industry and I enjoy working for Cypress is, I mean, I've been in corporate America for 40 plus years, and I have recently begun to downsize, and I said to myself, what can I do with my time to help and make a difference? And that's I thought of caregiving. I've taken care of some individuals over the last 5 years, not necessarily in a formal caregiving capacity, but that's what it's all about to me, and I do it with my heart, and it's critical.
And you talked about formal caregiving capacity, and a lot of people look at that as something. It's a criteria for you to be in that business. But if you're taking someone to the grocery store, if you're picking up medications at the pharmacy,
right.
If you're just walking their dog, you're caregiving. And a lot of people don't realize that they're enabling somebody to remain as independent as possible so that they can have their dignity and that they can age successfully in place. With that, Jeff, believe it or not, we're done our first segment. So we're coming up on a break. And in the second segment, I want to talk a little bit about your background, because you've got an interesting background, and that background has really helped you in caring for people, because you're able to relate to them and be able to communicate with them. Because that's really a lot of what it's about, is communicating with them and relating to them.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Bob.
So with that, my name is Bob Roth, and you're listening to Health Futures, and we're going to take a break.
How can you potentially avoid future losses in the stock market like the ones we've experienced in 2000, 01, 02, and 2008? Call Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions at 800-957-5604, extension 200, and learn about active money managers that have had positive returns in those years. How strong and stable are the vital signs of your financial institution? Learn about the Comdex rating score of your insurance company that your banker, broker, and insurance agent may not want you to know. Listen to Anil's On the Money radio show every Tuesday at 1 p.m. and Thursday at noon. You can also catch him on Business for Breakfast Friday mornings at 6:45. Learn about the concept of the principal protected low-cost new generation annuity and why it's superior in most cases than the high-risk, high-fee variable annuity and the obsolete hybrid income annuity. Call Anil Vazirani and Secured Financial Solutions at 800-957-5604, extension 200 to set up your strategy session, or visit theripa.com. Past performance is not indicative of future results. Read the prospectus for risk, fees, and charges. Investment advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, an SEC registered investment advisor.
You know, they say money doesn't grow on trees, but remember, trees produce timber, and timberland as an investment has risen faster and with less volatility than the Standard & Poor's 500 index. In fact, since 1987 alone, in spite of minor losses in 2010 due to the U.S. housing slump, the NCREIF's Timberland Index has risen 15% per year compared to 9.61% for the S&P. During the Great Depression, in fact, stocks plunged 70%, yet timber gained 233%. And even in 2008, when the S&P lost 38%, the Timberland Index gained 9.5%. Nothing, of course, is guaranteed, but trees do grow every year by 4 to 8%, and they are unaffected by wars, politics, interest rates, and market crashes. Want more information on how to acquire timberland? Call my friend Alex Wilson at Maderas Futura at 855-888-6288, or go online at PreciousTimber.com. That's PreciousTimber.com.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And if you missed our first segment, you can find it right on our webpage. You go to cypresshomecare.com, and you look to the right on our homepage. You're going to see a big radio button that says Health Futures. Click on that, and you'll be able to hear this first segment that you missed, and you'll be able to hear these next three. And if you're inclined, we've got about 50 other segments that you can listen to and catch up on some of the stuff that we have talked about relative to our aging adult population. So if you're just tuning in, I've got Jeff Brown, who is a caregiver for Cypress Home Care Solutions, and he's a whole lot more than a caregiver. He's a professional. He's a pro. He's got 40 years of experience in corporate America, and we were just talking at the break about how you're able to do such a great job in caregiving because of communicating, connecting, if you would. So I would like you to just give our listening audience a little bit about your background, some of your experiences. I know you do. You're a teacher. You do a lot of public speaking, and I want you to talk a little bit about the connection, if you would, that you make with a lot of the clients.
Sure, be glad to, Bob. Basically, my background is I moved out here in 1962 as a youngster and went to school here, graduated from Arizona State, and then became a teacher in a high school format. So I did that for a few years, coached some football, and then decided there must be more to life, though I really enjoyed teaching. So I got into the insurance industry and figured out that was not my forte. And why did I leave teaching? But anyway, you make decisions that you look back on. And then went into banking. So I was in retail banking here with some old-time banks for about 20 years.
Wow.
Enjoyed that very much. Was able to manage folks and learn a lot about managing and connecting with people in a positive way there. Then I got into the outsourcing industry, so I helped some companies with payroll, workers' comp insurance, and benefits and that type of thing. Did that for about 10 years. And then decided I wanted a new change, so became a caregiver for a couple of neighbors. They were in their 80s and had some dementia and Alzheimer's going on, and enjoyed that very much. Though I didn't do it for money, I did it because my wife and I cared about them, and so we enjoyed that very much. And that kind of built my foundation for caregiving. And so after a couple other changes, decided to contact you, Bob, and say, is there any place for me on your staff? And I know I'm probably not the typical person that you would look at, but, can we talk? And you were very grateful in listening, and sure enough, I was able to handle a number of clients and love being a caregiver for Cypress. And I really hope that this message gets out to a number of folks who might say, you know what, maybe there's a shot for me in that. I hadn't really thought about it before today, but I like older people. I love making a difference in their life, and maybe I can do something like that. So I just throw that out as an invitation to any of you listening that might appeal to you.
I can't thank you enough, Jeff, for throwing that shout out to our listening audience. And, listening to you talk about how you and your wife help care for some neighbors and help them remain independent, and how rewarding that was for you.
Right.
And wasn't about the money. It's about helping your fellow brother.
Correct.
And helping your fellow sister and helping them at least get on with life. I mean, they deserve that. They lived great lives. Thank you. That's all from the bottom of my heart. Thank you.
You're welcome. And you had mentioned connecting, Bob. Let me say real quick that something I learned early on, and I'm a big believer of communication and relationship and asking questions of individuals and listening to their side. And that is really true in caregiving. I learned a long time ago to be a great conversationalist. You ask a lot of questions and listen. And I found that carrying that over to the caregiving side has really helped me tremendously in establishing and building relationships with individuals. And we all want to be heard. We all want people to listen to us. And you know what? The folks that I work with have had tremendous lives in their own experiences, and that's fun for me to carry on those conversations, to learn about things that I didn't know anything about. And so that's a big part for me that I really enjoy in connecting with individuals. And frankly, at the end of the day, I mean, there are things that we do as caregivers, and I don't mind doing those things, but what I enjoy most is connecting with those individuals and them smiling and them remembering something from their past, and then them saying in some form, you know what, thank you. Thank you for spending some time with me and listening to me.
Wow. I'm just in awe. I mean, that's what we do. I mean, that's what caregivers like yourself, Jeff, do, and that is why we exist today. And I talk about it often. I do a lot of public speaking, and when I talk about it, I talk about how every one of our clients is like a good book. Mm-hmm. They're an incredible story. And we've had the privilege at Cypress Home Care Solutions to care for World War II veterans, Korean War veterans, Vietnam War veterans, developers, professors, you name it. We've had teachers. We've had the pleasure of caring for so many people that help shape our community that we live in today. We wouldn't have the things today that we have if it weren't for the clients that we care for.
Right.
And I love how you talk about learning about them, and how I know a lot of times your clients, because I've seen it firsthand, they tell sometimes those stories over and over again. And as caregivers, we listen to it like if it were the first time. We don't say, oh, we know that. We don't want to offend them, but we want to hear that story, especially as passionate as they are. And we know how much that helps them relive those days. And when they tell this story with the same voice inflection, with the same, important ingredients, that's fact. That really happened. Whether it be a war story, whether it be a business story, whether it be a story about a family
right.
and a relationship with a son or daughter or wife, it truly is incredible. Now, thank you for sharing that, Jeff. I mean, that is why I believe caregivers like yourself do what you do.
Well, and thank you. I wanted to share something that I learned a few years back, and it's probably the greatest thing that I've learned in working with seniors and some folks who have some dementia and Alzheimer's. And the phrase is, join them in their journey. And I used that today at a networking meeting talking about caregiving. And the individual that was taking us around the Alzheimer's place was explaining how they work and how they have activities and that type of thing. And I said, you know what, it's really about joining them in their journey. Whether they tell that story 4, 5, 6 times, it doesn't matter. And one of the things that I've really enjoyed is working with the spouse. And again, not in a formal way, but just encouraging him or her, because it's tough what they're going through. And I've got an 82-year-old mother that has had, some of those issues. And so I've seen firsthand what I can do. But it's really about joining them in their journey. And when you're in a caregiving position, that's one thing. But when you're a primary caregiver for a spouse, that can be very tough. So that's really a cool part of our job.
I know we're coming up on a break, and one of the things that we advocate, and I know you advocate, and so many of the people that are in the aging adult community advocate, especially when you talk about the spouses, is that they need a break. And, we just got off the month of November celebrating Family Caregiving Month, and you and I both know the silent generation, the greatest generation, as they refer to, they took the vows in sickness and health literally.
Yes.
And they need that break. They need that respite, and that's when caregiving companies like Cypress Home Care Solutions and the Jeff Browns of the world can give them that break to be a better caregiver.
Absolutely.
Well, with that, we're going to come up here on a break, and I want to get back to talking a little bit more about caregiving and what it's meant not only to Jeff Brown, but what it means to our clients and how we're making a difference in so many people's lives. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and I've got Jeff Brown in the house, one of our caregivers from Cypress Home Care Solutions. We will be right back.
As we reach the bottom of the hour, we pause for a look at the world's news. Then we're back with Money Talk. We're Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
NBC News Radio, I'm Mark Potter. President Obama says Ashton Carter is his nominee to head the Defense Department because he knows the Pentagon inside and out.
With a record of service that has spanned more than 30 years, as a public servant, as an advisor, as a scholar, Ash is rightly regarded as one of our nation's foremost national security leaders.
In November, new job numbers soared.
Banks, very strong. Services, very strong. You want to see jobs in those kind of sectors being created.
CNBC's Sarah Eisen reports the 321,000 job count blew past the most optimistic expectations. NASA's Mission Control is calling this morning's test flight of the new Orion spacecraft the most perfect you could ever imagine. The 4.5-hour mission took the capsule farther and faster than any capsule built for humans since the Apollo moon program. The goal? To one day fly astronauts to Mars. This is NBC News Radio.
This holiday season, give the most eternal, unique gift of the year. Name a star after someone. I'm Rocky Moselle with International Star Registry. For $54 and a call to 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com, we'll name a star after anyone on your gift list. The star name will be recorded in book form in the U.S. Copyright Office, and we will send an incredible personalized gift package. Call the Star Registry, 800-282-3333 or visit starregistry.com for the gift that shines forever.
If you have Medicare Part D, you could be at the corner of, I'm throwing away money, and I had no idea. Well, Walgreens has your back. Our expert pharmacists make it easy for you to save even more on Medicare Part D prescriptions with co-pays as low as $0. So swing by Walgreens and talk to our pharmacist to get the most out of Medicare and your money. Walgreens, at the corner of happy and healthy.
Applies to Tier 1 generic for select plans.
This Christmas, Dick's Sporting Goods has gifts that matter to every athlete on your list, like Columbia Simply Snowy or Antimony jackets, just $99.99. And 25% off Nike Pro Hyperwarm, select Nike Performance, and NFL Fleece. Plus $99 for select fleece from the North Face. The #1 gift in golf, Titleist Pro V1, just $39.99. And save up to $220 on select Stiga table tennis tables. Or let your athlete choose a gift that matters to them with a gift card. Some exclusions apply. See store for details. Every holiday season starts at Dick's.
Imagine a store that lets you get the things you wanted, how you wanted. Don't want to use your credit? Don't. Don't have credit? Don't worry. Want to set up a payment plan around your paydates so you're never short on cash? It's up to you. Imagine payments that fit your budget, your schedule, your life. That's Rent-A-Center. Imagine that. No credit needed. Flexible payment plans scheduled around your needs. Imagine new possibilities at Rent-A-Center. Rental purchase transaction. See store for details.
The holidays are time for reflection, time for fun, no time to be alone. But some people would rather be alone than be in a nowhere relationship. If you're one of them, guess what? You're not alone, because the relationship experts at Scottsdale Matchmakers have matched thousands of singles. You should have more in common than just being single. The process is simple. After a thorough background check and an in-depth interview, all you have to do is be ready to meet that someone special you cannot live without. The relationship experts at Scottsdale Matchmakers will introduce you to like-minded quality people that are truly emotionally and physically available and have a solid foundation of similar values and goals. Give yourself the best gift this holiday, a real chance at love. Make a resolution not to spend another holiday alone. Contact the relationship experts at Scottsdale Matchmakers at 800-314-3552 or visit scottsdale-matchmakers.com.
Join Market Wrap host Mo Ansari for his next seminar on Wednesday, December 10th in Scottsdale. He'll review the markets, look at the technical indicators, and discuss current investment themes as well as risks in fixed income bond portfolios. Plus, he'll make time to answer questions about your favorite stock, mutual fund, or any investment questions you have. The seminar is free, but you must have a reservation. So call now as space is extremely limited. Call 800-388-9700. That's 800-388-9700. And join Market Wrap host Mo Ansari on Wednesday, December 10th in Scottsdale for the free seminar. Space is limited, so call now to make your reservation. Call 800-388-9700. That's 800-388-9700 or register online at compact.com. That's COMPAK.com.
Compact Asset Management is a registered investment advisor. Funds Custodian Fidelity Institutional Wealth Services. Member FINRA SIPC.
Think SRP Business Rebates. Save on refrigeration, window film, lighting, heating, and more. Get started at savewithsrpbiz.com.
How much? This is the Dow Jones Money Report. I'm Mike Weinstein. Uber Technologies has received a new influx of funding and believes it is worth $41 billion. This despite challenges from regulators and taxi companies around the U.S. The ride-sharing service plans to use the money to hire new drivers and test a delivery service, among other initiatives. Stocks are higher as investors digest the surprisingly strong employment report from the Feds today. The Dow is up 64 points at 19,960 or 17,964. The Nasdaq has gained 13 and the S&P 500 adding 4. Delia's will begin liquidating its inventory as it readies to file for bankruptcy. The retailer that focused on apparel and accessories for teenage girls will close existing stores once it gets approval. And mobile advertising revenue for Yahoo has been on the rise, so much so that it will surpass Twitter in that crucial category by sometime next year. The research firm eMarketer says this is still way behind market leader Google and second place Facebook. I'm Mike Weinstein with the Dow Jones Money Report.
Did you know by age 50, half of all men have an enlarged prostate? This means more urges to urinate, longer bathroom trips, waking at night to urinate, or issues with sex. If this sounds familiar, call us now, because we're shipping free bottles of Super Beta Prostate to listeners of this station. Super Beta Prostate is a non-prescription formula guaranteed to reduce the symptoms of your enlarged prostate. It's yours free. Pay only shipping and handling. Just call 1-800-945-5418. In clinical trials, the ingredient in Super Beta Prostate was shown to reduce urges to urinate, improve bladder emptying, reduce waking at night to urinate, and improve quality of life. This Super Beta Prostate free offer is for listeners of this station, but it won't last. Don't wait. Just call 1-800-945-5418. That's 1-800-945-5418. Call 1-800-945-5418.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, taking stock in you. And I've got with us today in the studio, I've got Jeff Brown, who is a caregiver for Cypress Home Care Solutions. And when we left off, we were talking about the spouses, and we were talking about the family members that are doing the caregiving. And we talked about how we just got through November recognizing those family caregivers and the work that they do so selflessly. And they give up their life and their jobs and everything into caring for their loved ones. And it is an incredible experience. They are unsung heroes, and they are making differences in people's lives. But the other thing that we need to be mindful of is we have statistics that show for a spouse that is caring for someone or a loved one that is caring for someone that's in between the ages of 66 and 96, 63% of those caregivers predecease the person that they are caring for, because it is emotionally and physically stressful. And caregiving companies, employer-based caregiving companies like Cypress Home Care Solutions, and I keep using that word employer-based caregiving companies because it's really important for our listening audience to know that employer-based companies have employees that have been background checked, that have been trained, that have the proper insurances, that taxes are being withheld, they have workers' comp insurance, and it gives that care recipient and their families the peace of mind that there's a company behind them. And there are some really good companies right here in Maricopa County that have been around a long time, like Cypress Home Care Solutions. And I will tell you, Jeff knows this, we work with some of those companies very, very closely, and we help one another out because, you know what? That's why we're in this field. We're in this field to help people. We're a people business helping people. And caregiving is really what it's all about, is being able to care for somebody. And Jeff, you and I were talking about at the break, we were talking about how stressful it is on those families. And you were giving me an example of one that just happened the other night between a spouse and between the couple, the married couple were in a spat, and obviously it was because the job of caregiving for that spouse that's doing the caregiving is very stressful. If you wouldn't mind, share that with our listening audience, because I want them to hear that these things are not that uncommon. I mean, this isn't the Costanzas in Seinfeld, but I mean, it can get very heated, and it can get very emotional. And, you know, where there's a lot of love there, sometimes caregiving gives that person the break. And when I say caregiving, I'm talking about employer-based caregivers coming in to help, or a friend coming in, or a family member coming in to help that family out.
Bob, I think one of the things, before I get into that story, is I've seen many spouses over the years, obviously, who love their other spouse that needs some care. And yet they get they get frustrated with the situation. They don't know necessarily how to handle it, or they, in the heat of the moment, because they've had a long day and they've been at work and now they're lovingly doing the best job they can do, and then sometimes it just is not a good ending, or as far as an argument. So the situation that took place that I will share is I've worked with a couple in the past, and basically there was a problem with the TV, and the gentleman that I'm caring for couldn't exactly remember how to get it fixed, and she was frustrated, and they got into a heated argument about it.
There's a lot of sophistication in these TVs today. Do you remember the day where we used to get up off the couch and just turn the channel? And
right.
And, you know, then they just had one remote, but now they got multiple remotes. So I'm sure that family, and we didn't talk about that, but there was some complications with some technology, I would imagine.
Yes. And if there is some dementia involved, then one thing that you learn very quickly with someone who has dementia, Alzheimer's, is the past is crystal clear to them. They remember things in the past, but the present is cloudy. Mm-hmm. And so they may not remember, even though they've been showed 3, 4, 5 times, they may not remember, and that's where I encourage the spouse to join them in their journey and go with them. And anyway, I walked in and found out that they had an argument the night before, because they mentioned it to me. So one of my primary goals during that shift was to figure out what I could do to help them overcome that and to fill that need. So I'm not a Cox cable person, but I said, okay, here we go. So did this, did that, tried this, tried that, didn't work. And then figured out that I could go direct from the box to the TV that they were having problems with. Got it resolved, not exactly to their liking, but it was resolved nonetheless. And they both looked at me. He looked at me and basically said, thanks. I can't thank you enough. And she looked at me and said, that's amazing. Thank you. No more arguments. We aren't going to have any more arguments. And that was just great to hear, because, again, was it a big deal? No. To me it wasn't, but it was an opportunity to help someone overcome a problem that they had and find a need, find a fulfillment to that need, whatever that meant. So, again, that's just, at the end of the day, when I walk out of there, I ask myself a question: did I make a difference in somebody's life today? And in most cases, in fact, in all cases, every day there's something that I can say yes, and I'm thankful for that.
Thank you. And I believe you are making a difference every single day. And you know, what's interesting is that stressful moment that happened between that couple is exactly what I was talking about, because the stress is because that one person is doing the primary caregiving.
Yes.
And they need that respite. They need that break. And I want our listening audience to hear this, because so many of you have parents or grandparents that one may be covering the other's deficits, and you may not know what's going on. There may be some dementia going on. There may be something else going on that you're unaware of, but they need that break.
Right.
And I want our listening audience to be mindful of that. You know, the other thing I want to share with our listening audience, Jeff, is that, you know, while you and I have known one another for about 10 years, 11 years, you helped me personally out. And I have a family friend, we'll name him H, that you came on the scene probably about a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago.
Right.
He has since passed, and I know how hard that was for you, and it was certainly hard for me and my family. But the interesting thing is that here he had a great caregiver, and it was a female caregiver through me, and I happened to be coming to visit him, and she was walking out, and I was walking in, and I sat down with him, and I said, H, how's it going? He goes, it's going good. And I said, well, how's, so-and-so doing caregiving? He says, look, she's adequate, she does the job, she's pretty to look at, but she doesn't offer me intellectual stimulation. And I said, okay, and what are you looking for? And he says, well, I want to talk about things that are interesting to me.
Right.
And find someone that can have some dialogue with me. And that is the segue, if you would, to your introduction. And I want to get into that in our next segment and talk about H and how I introduced you and really how we problem solved for him and got him a great caregiver.
Right.
So with that, it's hard to believe we're up against another break. So we're going to take a break now. This is segment number 3 is down. We got one more to go, Jeff. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and my name is Bob Roth with Cypress Home Care Solutions, Jeff Brown in the house. We will be right back.
I'm here today with Phil'sGang.com's Phil Grandy. Phil, tell us why the Phil's Gang show is different than the other shows.
Because my show, we combine social talk with finance. Nobody else does that. There's either finance, which is so boring and you turn the station when you hear it, or there's all social talk. Mine is different. Mine is social, and I combine it with finance, and we make it very interesting, and we give good information.
Phil, what does Phil'sGang.com offer to the individual investor?
Low fees. It's the 401k fees that are killing people. Just a 1% fee wipes out 28% of all the money you put away for retirement. The average person pays 3%. So that means on $1 million, if you're lucky to walk out with $250,000. So I offer a simple, low-cost, exchange-traded fund retirement fund, and the fee is only $1 in, $1 out for your exchange-traded fund and your membership of $49.95 a month. There's nothing better.
For more information, please go to philsgang.com or call 877-600-4264. That's 877-600-4264.
You spent your whole life setting yourself up financially so you can relax and enjoy the rest of your life. And what's the most important thing? Family and your loved ones. And nothing will help a relationship and marriage better than having an intimate relationship with your spouse. If erectile dysfunction or low testosterone is affecting your ability to be intimate, call Summit Male Medical, 480-398-1000, or go to summitmalemedical.com. Let our Arizona licensed doctors and all male medical staff help you with FDA-approved medication to give you blue-chip performance. We guarantee to help you, or we won't charge you. Happy wife, happy life. I've yet to find a woman that isn't interested in being romantically involved with her husband. So make it happen. You've taken charge financially. Now do it with your love life. Call 480-398-1000 or go to summitmalemedical.com.
Did you know you can redirect your taxes to one of several charities by going to aztaxcredit.org? It's true and available to anyone filing taxes in Arizona. aztaxcredit.org. Do it today.
Now back to Health Futures, taking stock in you. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call 602-264-8009. Now, here's your host, Cypress Home Care Solutions, Bob Roth.
Welcome back. My name is Bob Roth, and you are listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You. And we're up here on our 4th segment. We're a weekly show found right here on Money Radio, 1510 AM, 99.3 FM. And we're wrapping up our segment here with Jeff Brown, a caregiver with Cypress Home Care Solutions. And I wanted to share with our listening audience a friend of mine, a dear friend of my family. We'll use his name as H. And when we left off in our last segment, I was talking about how he had a caregiver that was doing, as he said, an adequate job, and she did all the things that he was looking for, but he was looking for intellectual stimulation. And with that, I proposed to him, I said, well, how about a male caregiver? And he said, I'm not so sure about that. And I said, well, look, I know you want to talk about business. You want to talk about sports. This guy was from New England, so he liked to talk about the Red Sox and the New England Patriots and the Boston Celtics. So I suggested a male caregiver, and he agreed. And Jeff, you came on the scene, I think the very next day or the day after, and he called me that next day, and he said, you were right. Let Jeff come on back. So it was great having you, be able to fill the bill, if you would, for H. And interesting enough, you were able to have that intellectual stimulation with him. And the nice thing, too, Jeff, is I think you knew why I loved him, like so many of us did. He was a very giving person, gave a lot to the community that he lived in and gave a lot to his friends, and he had a lot of friends.
Yes, he did. And
he brought you into his circle, if you would. And I really want you to share with our listening audience what that meant to you, because a lot of our caregivers, and a lot of people that are listening think that, caregiving is just about wiping butts and helping people get dressed. And it's really not that at all. And this guy lived an amazing life, and I know a little bit about it, but you lived it. You lived his life for over a year. And if you could just let our audience just a little into the window of maybe what, a week typically looked like, because you would go to lunches with him, you would go to the gym with him. I mean, you did a lot with H.
Yes, I did, Bob, and it was an awesome opportunity for me. And I was able to, we had talked earlier about connecting and establishing a relationship, and I was able to do that with him. And really, part of that is getting the trust, earning the trust, I should say, of the individual and the family, because they need to be comfortable with who is taking care of their mom or dad or uncle or whoever. And it was an amazing opportunity to say good morning every morning, and every time I would say, how are you? He would say, very good, or awesome, or some positive. And he had a debilitating disease, and he was suffering. And yet, I looked at him several times throughout that relationship, and I said, H, I said, you know what? One of the things I really love about you, and he goes, what? And I said, your positive attitude. And I remember a doctor telling him one day that the gym work that he did really meant nothing as far as his physical abilities and status, and he was troubled at that, and we talked about that. And I said, you know what, I'm not a doctor and I'm non-medical, but here's my take on it. I think it's important to continue that, because it helps you mentally and positively with your attitude. And the one thing you have going for you, H, is your attitude. And he said, you know what, you're right. And so he went to work out every day, and I saw him decline over a period of time, and it was tough to see. But his attitude was amazing, and I think that was a big part of it.
You talk about his attitude. I would call and check in on him periodically. And about 3 weeks before he passed, I called him up, and I said, H, how you doing today? And he responded to me. He said, is the sun shining? And I said, yep. And he goes, then it's a good day. Yep. He always looked at that glass half full, never half empty. And you know what? We get a chance as caregivers and as agencies. And I knew H for many years. I knew him for almost 30 years. But when I don't know someone for that long, you learn a lot about them, unfortunately, either through the care or you learn about them in the funeral.
Right.
And the eulogies that were given at his funeral were just, I was awestruck, because I learned so much about a man that I loved and I cared about, but I learned so much more. And it goes back to what I said in the first segment, that these are people that we get to care for that have shaped our communities, that have been pillars of our communities, that have been part of our communities, who've created the economies and the stuff that we see today.
Right.
It is incredibly rewarding to be a part of that. And you are a great testament to that, Jeff. And I really appreciate you coming up on the show. And as you said earlier, for our listening audience to hear, one, your background, but two, your passion for what you do. And, at Cypress Home Care Solutions, we know there's a caregiver shortage. I went through the AARP stats. We're always looking for great caregivers. So if our listening audience is listening in and you feel like you can make a difference in somebody's life, and like I said, it's more than getting someone dressed or wiping or doing those things. It's about being a part of them and a part of their life.
Yep.
It's incredibly rewarding.
Excellent. Well, thank you for the opportunity, Bob. I've enjoyed it, and I hopefully I've said something that will stimulate some ideas or actions of your audience, and we'd love to obviously help you if we can. And I would encourage you to allow a caregiver into your life and let us see what we can do to help.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much. And as we wrap up our show here, the thing that I want to just make people aware of is that, we have a great opportunity before us. The opportunity is to care for so many people that have made differences in so many lives. And at Cypress Home Care Solutions, we get the privilege to see people not as they are, but we get to see them as they were, and get to hear their stories and get to be a part of their lives. And
right.
That is really rewarding.
Excellent.
If you have any final moments that you want to share, Jeff, I give you the microphone. We're coming up on the close, but I can't thank you enough to really share with our listening audience your experience as a caregiver.
Well, I know that most families I talk with really want to have their loved one at home, and their loved one would prefer to be at home. And I've also worked with, and I've done some senior placement myself, and at the end of the day, it's really about having good care for their loved ones. And caregiving is an option out there, and I would encourage you to check it out to see if that's the right option for you. And if so, I believe 100% in Cypress and the company and what they do. And I would encourage you to at least get the information to check out as an option.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff. And certainly the one thing I will add, too, is caregiving most of the time is a less costlier proposition in terms of getting the care versus getting placed into a group home or into an assisted living or independent living community. With that, we're going to wrap things up. It's hard to believe, we're less than 3 weeks away from Christmas, guys. I hope you guys are doing your shopping, checking your list, and checking it twice. Jeff Brown, thank you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being here, sharing your story, sharing about how you get a chance to make a difference in so many people's lives. And thank you for caring for my dear friend H. This is Bob Roth. You're listening to Health Futures, Taking Stock in You, and we'll be back next week. Make it a great day and have a great weekend.
There's no place like home. You've been listening to Bob Roth's Health Futures. If you have questions about your own or your loved one's future health care, call Cypress Home Care Solutions at 602-264-8009. That's 602-264-8009. Or visit CypressHomeCare.com. Be sure to join Health Futures with Bob Roth every Friday at noon, right here on Money Radio 1510 and 99.3 FM.
January 10th, everyone will be out for blood. It's the biggest lineup of competitors ever at the gate. Monster Energy AMA Supercross and FIM World Championship. Brought to you locally by Chuck Franklin Law. See Eli Tomac, Davey Millsaps, Ken Roxon, Justin Barsha, Trey Kennard, Brian Dungy, and Chad Reed. Kid seats start at just $10, and Redhead seats are just $15. Get tickets at Ticketmaster. All seats $5 more damn show, additional fees apply. January 10th, Chasefield. Rain or shine.
Money Radio 1510
and 99.3 FM. It's news time.
KFNN Mesa Phoenix and K257CD Phoenix. December 31st marks the last day you can do some important financial moves for the year. Our on-air experts will guide you toward making those right decisions. Dow is up 50 points, S&P is up 2, the NASDAQ is up 9. A big gain reported in new jobs. The General Motors Foundation is donating to 2 local groups and a mostly sunny day. Those stories and traffic right after NBC News at 1 o'clock.